Those of us who listen to this show on the regular know that Alyssa and I frequently have a B, or perhaps even several Bs in our bonnets about fuckery at the state level, particularly in states that are run by Republicans who seem to have no skill or interest in actual governing. Today, we've got a voice of reason from one of those states to talk about what's going wrong and what needs to happen in order to make it right. She's currently the only Democrat elected to a statewide office in Florida. She is Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Nikki Fried. Welcome, Nikki.
Well, thank you so much for having me on today. And really, quite honestly, thank you for everything that you guys are doing. The fact that you are targeting people in red states that are standing up is really incredible, and helping those of us who are in those positions really carry our voices and know that there's a lot of support out there for what we do.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So Florida has made headlines lately for a lot of concerning COVID-related reasons. As somebody who's actually there, how has the last year of the COVID pandemic gone for you, and how has it gone for your fellow Floridians?
You know, for me personally, it's been just as hard as it is for everybody else out there. Haven't been able to see my family either. I've got a 91-year-old grandmother. I've got my mother in South Florida who also had cancer and was going through chemo, so not able to see her. So it's been, hard for all of us, until now that we've got some vaccines here in the state, but certainly it's been difficult. And unfortunately, here in the state of Florida, you've got these two camps. One camp that, are very into the Trump world, that you have no masks, and really we're trying to throw parties during spring break last year and pack the stadiums during Super Bowls, both in Miami from last year and Tampa this year. And then you have our other half of the state that hasn't seen family, hasn't been to funerals, haven't seen, births of grandchildren and weddings and just holidays. And that are really so scared, have lost loved ones or have seen loved ones get really sick and be on ventilators. And unfortunately, we've got a Republican governor who took his marching orders this entire time from President Trump. So wouldn't do anything without the permission from Trump, whether that was to close down the state, whether it was to open the state. We had no mask mandate. The orders that came out of his office were confusing. He was hiding numbers and changing numbers from the Department of Health, not releasing information. It has been a dumpster fire here in the state of Florida. But for our local mayors and our city and council members across the state who stepped up during these times to protect their communities, we would have been very, very far worse off than we are today.
Speaking of your governor, Ron DeSantis, it seems like a lot of problems in Florida can be traced to him. Can you explain how DeSantis' handling of the pandemic has made it worse?
Yeah, lack of leadership. Again, that he was following Trump the entire time. So anything that Trump said, pushing all of the hoax types of vaccines and medications, then all of a sudden Florida is buying them. So he just has really been so up to get the support of President Trump. And then what happened also is he would be changing numbers and changing theories of, no, we don't have community spread. Oh, wait, maybe we do. Or it doesn't impact our kids. Wait, maybe it does. And so he went out of his way almost to continue to confuse people. So instead of having a leader who went to the cameras every day, put confidence into the people of our state, said, listen, we're all in this together. Please wear a mask. Please social distance. I know it's hard not seeing your family and your friends, but we got to do this together. In order for our economy to rebound, we've got to get through beating this virus. And he didn't do any of that. He has really taken himself out of any conversations with experts. Our Surgeon General here in the state of Florida, we haven't seen for 9 months. He was pulled out of a press conference because he wasn't, spewing the same, rhetoric that the governor was spewing, and he got pulled out of a press conference, and we haven't seen him since. There's still the healthcare crisis, and our Surgeon General is nowhere to be found. And so he has not listened to experts. He brings around those hoax experts that we saw President Trump talking about, how, herd immunity is the way to go. And that's how the governor reacted, opened up our state completely with no guidelines, no metrics of, how to have 25% business capacity or 50% and kind of slowly going into this. And he's proud of it. I mean, he talks about our state is open for business, and we talk about Disney. Well, California still, Disneyland is still closed. And he talks about all of these things, but has forgotten to realize that there's a part of governing where you're supposed to be a public servant. And that means taking care of everybody and putting everybody, to rest assured that we got this. And we don't. He stopped talking to me a long time ago, where my responsibility is feeding our state. Refused to have me on reopening task forces, wasn't talking to me, wasn't engaging in my office, doesn't talk to the rest of the cabinet, infrequently talks to leadership of our Senate and our House of Representatives, doesn't talk to our US senators or members of Congress, has gone this alone and is only touching base with President Trump during the time. And now he's just out there on his own, giving out vaccines to wealthy donors and making it a pay to play for even getting the vaccine. So it has been an absolute disaster here in the state. And to all the people that are listening and that are from the state of Florida, I just want to apologize on behalf of government that this is not the way it's supposed to be. And this didn't have to be this bad if he would have just been listening to science, been cautious, not been so abrasive to the media and to people that aren't necessarily in his same mindset. He's very dismissive, and if you happen to question a policy or an executive order, you now go to the bottom of the bad list of Santa, and you would think that you would have killed a member of his family by the way he treats people who stand up and are in opposition to some things that he says and orders that he signs.
Mm-hmm. Can you actually, for our listeners, explain a little bit more about the pay to play as it relates to the vaccines? Who is he prioritizing in vaccine distribution?
Yeah, first it was, first come, first serve for our seniors, which was an absolute disaster. There was no state plan, there was no organization, there was no talking to your local Department of Health or your hospitals. He just said, first come, first serve, and started distributing the vaccines. So that was the first disaster. And then he started kind of getting smart and started realizing that he can have a political win by designating these vaccines to Republican areas, areas where he has received significant campaign contributions. We have 3 already documented areas here in our state where a vaccine pop-up site, we're calling them pop-up sites because they're not organized. They come at the last minute. Typically, it was because he had a press conference in that area. And 3 specific instances. We had one that was in what's called Manatee County here in Florida, where it was 2 specific zip codes. And the county commissioner from that area created a VIP list that was at the direction of the governor of who was going to get these vaccines before everybody else. And exclusive zip codes, which happened to have been the wealthiest 2 zip codes in that county. And when the governor was questioned about it, he said, well, I can just move them to another place if you guys aren't happy with getting vaccines here. And meanwhile, the other part of town, the west part of town, is really an underserved minority community that had no vaccines. And you only could be getting these vaccines if you lived in this zip code. And we then saw the amount of campaign contributions from this area that had gone in previously or in the last couple of months to the governor. We saw the same thing a little bit further south in one of our other counties, where there is a wealthy Republican donor who has given significant campaign contributions to him over the last couple of years and is a developer. And these vaccines were going into this developer's exclusive communities. Again, gated communities that other people couldn't get into. And I think the most atrocious one that we have seen is down in the Keys, in one of Key Largo, in one of these, again, exclusive resort areas, where there was 17 individuals that gave $5,000 campaign contributions in the month of December. A past Republican governor from Illinois that gave a $250,000 campaign contribution, and the hospital that gave them the vaccines canceled appointments for other people to shift these vaccines to this area. And there's also a membership for this community, and people that were members couldn't even get the vaccines. You actually had to be an equity shareholder of this community in order to get these vaccines. And now the governor is saying, well, I wasn't involved in this one. This was through the Baptist Health. Meanwhile, Baptist has said, Governor, we would have never done this without somebody from your office giving us the green light. So there's back and forth. And that's just 3 examples that we know of today. I can go on and list other times when we know he's going into a community, or that it's been just released that there's a press conference in Volusia County, and that there's going to be a pop-up site in Volusia County. But meanwhile, the day before, the Republican Club of Volusia County sent out an email encouraging people to go and see the governor and get your vaccine. And again, this is not a wide distribution of that county. This is just the Republican Club of that community. And again, so we are just constantly seeing that he's using these vaccines as a tool to reward his donors, to reward people that have supported the Republican Party. And at the same respect, those counties and those city commissioners who have been more critical of him, he is not providing vaccines in those areas or going around them to provide into those communities.
Oh my gosh. Well, that sounds like a lot of covering up for something that a year ago he was calling a hoax. Wow, that's a lot of, are they just pantomimed vaccines that he's giving to people? Or like, come on, pick a lane, Governor. From a public health perspective, what happens when people who need the vaccine most aren't prioritized? Like, what have you seen as the overall harm when so many people have been allowed to cut in line?
Yeah, the problem is that, right now our teachers aren't getting vaccinated. Unless you are 55 and above and have a health concern, our teachers are not being vaccinated. Our farm workers, the things that I oversee, are not a priority. So these are the individuals that haven't stopped working. Our farmers have been out there making sure that we're feeding not just our state, but our country. We're seeing the people that work at the food stores are not prioritized. So these individuals that have put their lives on the line every single day for us, that are essential workers, are waiting in the back of the line. And the other part is that the individuals that are not getting the vaccine, because again, they're waiting on websites and waiting for this, sacred vaccines, sign up an appointment, they're staying home, which means they're not contributing to the economy and the rebuilding of the economy. And if we're doing things like this, it is taking away the concept that everybody's got an equal opportunity to succeed in life and to live. And we already know that there is, a disparagement and inequality with our healthcare system, not just in Florida, but across the country, but even worse in Florida, because Florida has refused to accept the federal government's money and has not expanded Medicaid here in the state. So we have a good portion of our state, about 2.8 million Floridians, that don't have access to a primary caregiver. So we've got a big problem here that you are really disenfranchising and really hurting minority communities more so than our white communities and our rich Republican donors. And so there's a ripple effect that is going on. And a lot of these underserved communities already have health issues to begin with, already have, whether it's diabetes or other types of conditions that we needed to make sure that we prioritize them. And the next great thing that the governor did was he expanded it out for those who have medical issues and need these vaccines. But here's the kicker. You need to have a doctor's note. And again, as I just said, 2.8 million Floridians don't have a primary doctor. So how are they getting that doctor's note? And some doctors are charging $350 to get the note. So now those communities that are already underserved, again, are put at the back of the line, which they have seen consistently through this pandemic. And quite honestly, the last 25 years here in the state of Florida under Republican leadership.
Wow, what a garbage human. Are you seeing any encouraging signs in the state that things may turn a corner despite your terrible governor?
Yeah, and that's because of FEMA. Now because President Biden has really ramped up the delivery of the vaccines across the country, we're seeing more and more here in the state of Florida. The pop-up, the sites, the actual permanent sites from FEMA are coming online. Unfortunately, first, the governor was not promoting those because he wasn't getting a political win. So why promote those FEMA sites? And so those FEMA sites, unfortunately, for a good portion of the last week, there was no one there. That they couldn't give out enough of the vaccines. And then the other problem of him not promoting this is the fact that he hasn't opened up the eligibility. So a lot more people would have gone to these sites. However, the sites are here. The sites are here. The vaccines are here in the state of Florida. And so I am definitely encouraged that as, hopefully President Biden continues to push forward his recovery plan and getting, warp speed on the delivery of these vaccines, more and more people will get them, which will hopefully, make people get back to normality, get people traveling again. Tourism is our number one economic driver. If we don't don't have people coming here to the state of Florida visiting, then we really are going to have an economic downturn here in the state.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad that there's some green shoots and that there's some kind of signs that maybe the worst is over and there might be some healing coming. And we like to end on a lighter note here. So as a lifelong Floridian, as a triple gator, 3 degrees from the University of Florida, I find that so impressive. What is your favorite thing about Florida, and what is a hidden gem for somebody who is visiting from out of state? What would you show them?
So my favorite part of the state is definitely our beaches. I have traveled our entire state, our entire coast. Every beach is a little bit different. You've got Miami Beach is very different than the beaches that are in the Panhandle. All different experiences, but all beautiful. And so we're surrounded by that. And I think that our hidden gem that most people, when they come to the state, they go to the beaches, they go to Disney World, is our springs. We have some of the most amazing, incredible natural springs that I spend a lot of time working to protect. They are some of the most gorgeous opportunities and just fresh water, and they're just awesome. And so for anybody who's traveling to the state, look up the Florida Springs first and make sure that you are incorporating them into your travel plans.
Well, thank you so much, Commissioner. The next time I'm in Florida, I will check out the springs. That is a hidden gem for me too. I had never heard of that.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on today, and keep up the great work out there.